Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you're ready to take on your next paying clients, I have good news. My free 4 Basics of Client Attraction and How to Stand Out class is live at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction. In the class, you're going to learn the top 2 traits I recommend for most coaches and entrepreneurs if they really want to turn this into a career. You're going to learn how you can build demand for your services and stop getting crickets on your posts. You're going to learn the sales roadmap I used to improve my sales conversion rate and help my clients do the same. And you're going to learn so much more. So go to haileyrowe.com/client-attraction and get your copy of the class today. Wellness professionals. And I'm so excited she's here with us all the way in Miami and safe from the hurricane at the time of this recording because the hurricane was going on over there. But why don't you just kick off and share with us, how did you get into web design and what you do today?
Yes, absolutely. So hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. So hi, Hailey too. So basically, I started my career. I moved to Miami. Let me just start with that. I moved to Miami 19 years ago. I come from France. Here's where the accent come from. And I moved to Miami 19 years ago, and I started working in marketing at the time, and little by little learn about web design through my career in corporate. And then I guess that's where my passion for web design started. And in 2020, I decided to move forward. I created my own business, and I've been doing web design ever since.
Amazing. And when you started to design websites and come up with a strategy for a website, what's one thing you always want your clients to already know or come to you with before they get a website? Is there anything in particular they really need to figure out beforehand?
Well, I think as anyone, you need to figure out what is your main objective with your website. Is it to get consultations? Is it to sell a product or a service, a digital product, a physical product? And by having that in mind right away, it's super important, because that's what will define how we build a website and what's the strategy we put behind and how we create the right user pathway online to achieve these objectives that you have.
Yeah, definitely. So having a clear goal, and I know for a lot of my clients, it is to book free consults so that they can see if someone's a fit for their services, or sometimes it's to get email opt-ins to their email list or email funnel. So what are some ways they could start to optimize for that? What are some tips or things they should focus on to be optimizing for that?
Well, there's obviously a lot of things to consider and a lot of things to have in mind. There's a lot of mistakes I see on many health and wellness websites, whether it's coaches or practices. And when it comes to, like, one of the main mistakes I see is having too much content, for example. A lot of times, and I feel like it's not necessarily just for coaches, but a lot of coaches I've worked with that have approached me for web design or for my services or my support, I've realized that a lot of time there's a lot of content, and having too much text or too much content is not enough clarity can be something that really that doesn't help, obviously, because you want to make sure that your clients, when they land on your website, they understand what solution you are providing to their needs, to their problems. So it's important that this can be understood right away as soon as someone comes to the website. And if it's too much content, obviously you might lose them, because simpler is better. You know, our attention span is so is so short. We want to make sure that you capture their attention as soon as they land on the website. And then, of course, as we all are, we're all super busy, and yeah, within seconds, you have to pass the message that you want to pass for your audience.
Right. Yeah. So right away, when they come to your website, you want it to be simple, easy to navigate, easy to read. And what are some things that maybe they want to have on their homepage if they want people to book a call or sign up for their email freebie? What kind of things should be on their actual homepage, as opposed to maybe separate pages they'll have where they don't need to put everything on the homepage?
Right. Well, something that's super important is to make sure that you focus your message on how you help your clients. You need to build that instant connection. So don't go over why I do this, or, what's my background, etc. On your homepage, you need to go straight to the point. How do I help you, my visitor who's just arriving on the website? And with that, and the clearer you are, the more likely they will stick. They will stick around to learn more, and they will stick around to book a consultation. Or if your goal is to get them to sign up to a newsletter or to receive like a freebie or something, you will need to lead them towards taking action for that. So, for example, saying something like, I help busy moms with anxiety to find peace and balance, for example. Like you right away, providing a solution to their problems, Mm-hmm. So, or I guide women through, I don't know, postnatal recovery, or, something that really shows how you can help them is definitely important, because it speaks directly to their needs. And then you can invite them to take action by either get them to download a freebie or get them to book a consultation with you.
Yeah, I love it. Now, if somebody feels like, and I see this a lot, where clients will come to me and they would have already made a website or have an initial draft, or they did it themselves or something like that, or they had somebody do it for them, but they say, oh, it just doesn't feel like me, or it just doesn't, I don't like my website. And so naturally they're shy about sharing it. They hide it. So what are some ways that someone who maybe feels like, my website just doesn't feel like me, what are some shifts they can make to start to figure out how to make it feel like them more and more authentic?
Right. Well, I think it all comes to like, what is your purpose, and how do you help these people? What solutions do you give them? And you have to feel confident as a professional about the service that you provide. And once you figure out exactly your niche and how, you help solve issues or problems that you and your audience might have, I think it helps, identify, okay, how do I then communicate it? And how do I then make the website resonate better to who I am as a professional, and of course to my audience as well. I think it's all about, really understanding that part of your niche audience, what they need and how you solve that.
Right. So what I'm hearing is your website's not necessarily always about you. And so if you feel like it doesn't feel like you, it could either be because you're a little wishy-washy on your message, and so it doesn't feel like you because you're just kind of unsure of yourself with your messaging, or B, maybe it doesn't feel like you because you're too focused on the you part, and you need to focus on your ideal clients and what do they need to see about you and that kind of thing. And I do have a free message mastery and niche cheat sheet. So for anybody who does feel like they don't know their message, that's at HaileyRowe.com. But what about when you work with clients, what are some other mistakes you see either on any page of their website, or things that people should watch out for? Because too often I see people rush into getting a website and then they have to like redo it, or they find it's not converting. So what should they watch out for?
Yeah. Well, one big thing that I always see, which is a key focus in all of the websites that I've designed is really your call to action. So there's the messaging and how do you communicate your services and how you help your audience, but it's also about clear call to actions. And you need to make sure basically that your call to actions, which is what will make people take action, literally, are visible and makes them want to take action. So you need to be, of course, careful with the way you write them, and not just, for example, not just to learn more, but something that's more inviting to get them to click. So, there's a lot of different ways that can be done, but it all comes down to the objectives and what your goal is and what you want them to take action. What exactly you want them to do on your website.
Right.
So,
and go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say about call to action buttons. I think there's some fun, interesting facts that I've picked up along the way, and who knows if this is still true, but I've heard little things like, a call to action button that's purple tends to do better than a call to action button that's I forgot what other color they were saying, but what are there any fun little tidbits you've picked up as a web designer that you've seen work well for clients, or fun facts that we should know about our website and getting more conversions?
Well, a fun fact, which I think is not necessarily very relevant to the health industry, is color. When it comes to color red, there are studies that shows that a color red is what will perform best on your website. However, in the health and wellness industry, sometimes red can be a little, either it's not in part of your branding, or it can be felt like maybe aggressive or too much. I think it's all about contrast in the end. It's all about making sure they're very visible, not only by color, but also by size. You want to make sure that they're not too little in a corner and nobody can see it. You want to make sure that there's enough contrast on your page where it becomes super visible. The way, usually when I design website, I try to use different color schemes, even for buttons and CTAs. And you have your regular CTAs or buttons that are maybe a certain color, and when it's the button you really want to have them take action, you might use a deeper color or a contrasting color, so that's where your eye goes to directly. So that's a good way. I guess it's all about contrast and balance. It can really help guide your audience and make them take an action on a particular area of your website.
Nice. Yeah. Do you use anything to track, or do you recommend anything for your clients for them to track? Interesting, people are dropping off the page here, or nobody's clicking on this link, or anything to track how well their website's doing?
I usually use Google Analytics, or depending on the platform you're using on a website, for your website, there's always some analytics tools in there that you can use. I use a lot of Squarespace for websites, especially for health and wellness professionals, because I feel like it's a very user-friendly platform that I can lead and give to my clients, where they can be completely autonomous on it, whereas some other platforms can be a little bit more complex to understand, and especially when you want to make your own updates. And for example, Squarespace has its own analytics tools, and usually you can check really each page how many visits you're getting, where it comes from. So, and especially with Google Analytics, there's a lot more you can do, obviously. But that's usually the platforms I would recommend. Is either Google Analytics or your website platforms. And then there's other tools that exist, like Hotjar, and these type of platforms or tools can help you identify, exactly where people click or where people put their mouse, the way they go on your website. So that can be helpful, also to identify what a client is really doing once he's on a page. And I've used that a lot for my own website. So
Cool.
yeah, it's a tool that can be very useful. But I understand that sometimes it can also be scary, all these different tools. So sometimes sticking to the easiest, or not easiest, but the more natural one that you can access to, like your website analytics section, might be. It's a good way to have a first look at your performances and your pages and how they're performing in general.
Yeah. And you said it's called Hotjar, or what is it called? Hotjar?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How do you spell that? Do you know?
It's HOTJAR, I believe.
HOTJR. Okay. Something like that. Okay. Cool.
Yes.
Nice. So what about that? You bring up another good point when you mention Squarespace. So there's so many different website hosting platforms out there. There's WordPress, there's Squarespace, there's Showit is now one that I keep hearing about. There's Wix. So what kind of things how does somebody decide? Is that something they should leave to their web designer? Should they do the research up front and decide what they want to do and then get a web designer that designs on that? Like, I think you bring up a good point that one criteria point is what can you edit easily after the website's done? And so if Squarespace is very user-friendly, that might be a good one. But what are some other things they should think about when deciding which platform to use?
Well, the first thing would be basically it's really based on your goals. So if your goals is to maybe just have your services available on your website, and you just want people to book a consultation, whether you have the other goals where maybe you want people to purchase a product, this will guide you into which platform to use, because not every platform is best at everything. There's always things that Squarespace is better for versus a Shopify, for example, is one of the best platform you can use when you have an e-commerce website. So I guess that's the first thing to look into before deciding on which platform to use. And then I guess it's a conversation to have with your web designer, because some web designer might prefer to work on certain platforms as well, because they have more expertise in one over the other. And it also depends on what our clients want to accomplish after. Are they planning on creating blog posts often? Do they want to have complete access and want to be able to do all of the updates by themselves, or do they prefer to have somebody else do it for them? It will also help define which platform is best. And the reason why I usually recommend Squarespace is because a lot of my clients, they're bloggers, they create a lot of content, and they want to make sure that they can do this easily without having to struggle over the different functionalities. And usually I know a lot of my clients think WordPress is a little complex for that reason. So yes, and I have expertise in Squarespace. I work on other ones as well, but Squarespace, I feel, is always what is the easiest for anyone that is new and that is not used to maneuver, to work on a website.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything in particular when someone gets their website designed, the afterwards part? Because I have seen where if you don't make sure that you are equipped to edit your website and you have access to everything and you own everything, like I've seen people get burned sometimes where they're like, oh, I don't own it, and I have to pay like a maintenance package for my web designer to do anything or just like keep it live. Anything in particular we should just, like, as a buyer beware going into hiring a website designer that we should be aware of, or ask, or make sure so that we're not in a stuck position afterwards?
Right. Yeah, no, but absolutely. And you're right. It can be complex. And that's why I think defining and really thinking about what your objective is ahead of time and what you want to do with it once you have it. You need to think about this beforehand. And if your goal is to make sure that once the website is ready, you can have fully access and you can create your goal is to create your own content and make your updates as you go, then same thing, that will define exactly the type of platforms that's more relevant for your business.
Yeah. And one thing that I did too with my web designer is I asked her to record, like originally, but before we even started, I said, after this, I get some videos on like how to make edits, how to like, you do a walkthrough session with me.
Right.
And I'm even willing to pay for it, but I just need to know like what I'm doing. Right. So,
yes, no, that's, you're right. That's very important. And I actually, every time I design websites for my clients, I do create videos to show them, not everything obviously, but the easy things based on what their objectives are and what they want to do after I deliver it. So whether it's like creating a blog post, okay, here are the steps to do this, or if you want to update an image or your homepage, because sometimes you want to make sure that your homepage is also updated once in a while to stay relevant. You might have some new content, new pictures you want to show on your website as well. So I think it's very important to communicate with your web designer ahead of time before you start a project to identify exactly what you're expecting from the delivery. It's not only just the website, it might be like a series of videos or tutorials, or maybe it's an hour session to do a live coaching on updating the website. That can be as well. And also, I guess something to consider is, outside of this, how much available content is there online, when you do a Google search, to help you with the process as well, because maybe you have a series of videos, but you're missing something and you don't want to contact your web designer because it might be an extra cost, like you said. So by doing a little digging and search before you choose your platform can be really helpful. And Squarespace I'm not working for Squarespace, just to be clear, but I think that's one of the reasons I love it, is because not only is it easy, you can go online and find anything. There's resources for every type of updates that you can imagine. And it makes it super easy for anyone who is new to it and is learning at the same time. And again, there's also platforms that do that as well, but I guess I find this one to be super easy.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah. And one complete side note is, I use WordPress and I have plugins. And one thing you want to watch out for is, if you're ever going to download a new plugin, always check who owns the plugin, who made the plugin, like who's the creator of the plugin, reviews, because there's actually, just from a safety standpoint, there's people who can make like bad plugins that you put on your website and they get like data. So just a pro tip there. And what about, there's one other thing I wanted to ask you. Oh, mobile friendly. So you said to me in our conversation, even before this podcast, how important it is to have a mobile friendly website. So just, can you share what people need to know about that? And if there's anything else you want to add?
Yes, this one is huge. It's actually one of the most important things to have in mind when it comes to having a website. Everybody searches for everything on their phone nowadays, and if your website isn't mobile friendly, you're definitely losing clients. And I'm sure we all have visited websites where it wasn't mobile friendly. They're a nightmare. The text is little, or you can't find the buttons, because on desktop it looks great, but once you're on your mobile phone, it's just impossible to navigate. It's just that today we live in a mobile first world, and like there's more than 50% of web traffic that comes from mobile phones or mobile devices, because there's also iPads, etc. So it is super important to make sure your site is optimized for mobile. Otherwise, you just risk of losing half. If you think about 50%, you're risking losing about half of your visitors right off the bat. So, when people land on your website, if they can't navigate easily, they're not going to stick around for sure. They're going to search for, someone else that can probably offer the same type of service and help them as well. So yes, making your site mobile friendly, it ensures that your visitors have a good experience, no matter the device they use, and that they take action quickly.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Were you going to add something?
No, I was just going to say one quick tip, as it could be helpful, is just make sure once in a while you check your website directly from your phone. We tend to forget this because we're all, working on our laptops or computers, but just keep in mind once in a while, because things could break too. You were talking about WordPress and plugins. And that's a good example where sometimes if the owner of the plugin is not updating it or maintaining it the right way, or if, on your website, something is not maintained, it could break something, maybe not on desktop, but it could break something on mobile version. So that's why I recommend to, every time you post something new or once in a while, just check your website on your mobile, test the links to make sure they're working well and that nothing is broken, especially the most important ones where you want people to take actions. They need to be working. So definitely, I cannot emphasize that enough.
Totally. And I looked on my iPhone, and a lot of times on my iPhone, my website looks good. But then if I look on an Android, there was problems, and I had to figure that out. And I'm still kind of figuring it out. But this is very valuable tips. Where can everybody connect with you, find you, all the good stuff?
Yeah. So, my website is imagewebdesign.com. So, of course, you can visit the website to learn more about the type of services I offer. And I have some freebies as well that can be helpful with tips for health and wellness professionals as well. And you can follow me on Instagram as well. My Instagram is holisticdesign_imageweb. Awesome. I can share it with you after. And I do share a lot of tips and content as well on my Instagram. So feel free to follow in case you want to learn and how to optimize your website.
Amazing. Well, thank you for being here, and everybody check out her Instagram and website, and I'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful, and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.